Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lillian Lodge Copenhaver, Executive Director of the Copenhaver Center for the Advancement of Women in Communication at Florida International University. I am pleased to welcome you to our Zoom workshop, which celebrates Women's History Month, The Power of Women, a Force for Change. This workshop is part of the programs of the Copenhaver Center in support of its mission to empower young women in order to develop visionaries and leaders who can make a difference in their communities and in their professions. We are all well aware that women are increasingly making a difference in every facet of society. Our amazing speakers today will discuss why women must recognize the power that they have to make a difference and why that is so important. Our moderator today, Dr. Diane Lynch, is in her 12th year as the president of Stephens College, the second oldest women's college in the country, founded in 1833. Under her leadership, the college has set all-time fundraising records, built a new center for health sciences, established a new master's degree in television and screenwriting in partnership with the Jim Henson Studios in Los Angeles, and launched the first all-women's collegiate esports team. Prior to coming to Stephens, she served as Dean of the Park School of Communications at Ithaca College and Chair of the Department of Journalism at St. Michael's College. She was the founding Executive Director of the National Online News Association, the Editorial Director of the first national study of the credibility of online news, editor of the first textbook on the ethics of digital news, and author of a biweekly column about women and technology for abcnews.com. A longstanding member of the Journalism Advisory Board of the Knight Foundation, Lynch wrote a national study on the future of American journalism and journalism education commissioned by the foundation. She was the 2019 recipient of the Mid-Missouri NAACP Distinguished Service Award, was selected as among the 50 Missouri top influencers by the Kansas City Star, was named by the Columbia Business Times as one of the 10 most influential women in Columbia, Missouri, and was the recipient of the Athena Leadership Award, presented annually in recognition of exceptional community service and career achievement. It is my honor to present Dr. Diane Lynch and our panelists this afternoon.
Thank you, Lillian. I always think when I hear those things, I always think interesting the things that get picked, and like you always want to stop it in the middle, right? Except that's not going to be the case for our speakers today, because they have done such extraordinary things. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Copenhaver, for your gracious introduction, and especially for your inspiring service to all of us who care so deeply about the mission of the Copenhaver Center. I do want to take just a minute also to thank the amazing and supportive women who make all of this happen from behind the Zoom scenes. Lillian Abreu, who's the research associate and program officer at the Copenhaver Center at FIU, and Lita Pistono, who is the executive assistant to the president here in my office and who really does run the college. And to all of you in our Zoom audience, thank you so much for joining us for this exciting and important event, a shared celebration of Women's History Month. It's my role today to keep us focused and to dedicate as much time as possible to the experiences and insights of our amazing speakers. So I'm going to quickly introduce them, and then I'm going to give them just a few minutes each to say hello. Melissa Medina Jimenez is currently president of eMerge Americas, the premier technology event of the Americas. In May 2014, Melissa helped launch the inaugural eMerge Americas, an annual large-scale global technology conference in Miami, which provides a platform for the advancement of technology, the sharing of ideas, and a launch pad for innovation, while connecting Latin America with the rest of the world. The mission of Emerge Americas is to serve as a catalyst for establishing Miami as the tech hub of the Americas. Melissa is also the president of the Medina Family Foundation, which has a mission to fund local initiatives that focus on mentoring children and empowering families by enhancing education and the quality of life. Melissa was named by the South Florida Business Journal as one of the 2019 Power Leaders in Technology. She also sits on the board of Endeavor Miami and Roots of Hope. Melissa is passionate about transforming Miami into a technology hub for the Americas and supporting Miami-based nonprofits that seek to empower tomorrow's leaders. Most importantly, she says, Melissa is a mother, and she is most passionate about her 5 children. Sebastian, 13, Eva and Ellie, twins, 11, Nicholas, 10, and Inez, Amelia. Melissa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that incredible intro. And I first and foremost want to thank FIU, the Copenhaver Center, Lillian Abreu, Dr. Copenhaver, Anna Chamas for this opportunity today. And again, thank you to Diane and thank you to Judy. It's truly a pleasure to be on this panel with you today. I'm quite humbled, to be honest, to be on here with you, sharing this platform. Today, we're covering an especially important topic because it's one that I think many either shy away from or just don't put much emphasis on. The power of women as a force for change is shining a light on the true impact we have in this world. I read somewhere once a quote, "A woman alone could have power, but collectively we have impact." No truer words, in my opinion. I'm extremely excited to discuss this important topic for our future generations. And as Diane mentioned, I'm a mom of 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls. I want all of them to know, boys and girls alike, that we should all have the same opportunities and that we should all dream big. I'm also a first-generation American, daughter of Cuban immigrants, which gives me almost a sense of overwhelming thanks for all the opportunities that I have. I'm very excited to dive deeper into this conversation and just thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's lovely. And I'm hoping that your daughter is going to arrive.
I actually just heard her screaming, right? She just got home, the little one. So if you see her pop in, apologies.
We're all good. We're all good.
The rest are still in school.
Girls have impact at all ages.
Oh yeah, this one surely does, I promise you.
Okay, thank you. So Judy Taylor is Senior Vice President for Casting and Talent Relations at Disney Branded Television. Judy oversees all casting, talent booking, and day-to-day talent relations for live action series and movies on the Disney Channel, as well as live action programming on Disney+. She brings an extraordinary wealth of experience and expertise to developing and nurturing talent, having helped launch the careers of young stars, including Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Zac Efron, Dove Cameron, Peyton Elizabeth Lee, Milo Manheim, Meg Donnelly, Zendaya, and Olivia Rodrigo. And if that's not a list of the top, yes, talent we know and love. Taylor has overseen the casting for numerous Disney Channel original movies, including all 3 Descendants movies, High School Musical and High School Musical 2, Zombies and Zombies 2, the Camp Rock franchise, Teen Beach Movie, and most recently Sneakerella, which was premiering in 2021 on Disney+. Additionally, she's overseen casting for popular original series, including Andy Mack, Sydney to the Max, Casey Undercover, Girl Meets World, Austin and Ally, Jessie, Good Luck Charlie, the Emmy Award-winning Wizards of Waverly Place, and the one I grew up watching with my daughter, Hannah Montana, as well as the Disney Plus series, High School Musical, the series, and the Disney Plus film, Secret Society of Second Born Royals. Taylor began her career as an assistant in Fenton Feinberg Casting and rose to become a partner in the firm, which was then renamed Fenton Taylor Casting. Her feature film casting director credits include all 3 Back to the Future movies, the Free Willy series franchise, the Mighty Ducks 2 and the Mighty Ducks 3, Sister Act, one of my favorites, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and the Goonies, which in my adult son's world makes her the #1 casting director on the planet ever, among many others.
I second that.
Judy, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Oh my, that was, I should have edited that for you, Diane, really, in the interest of time.
Listen, I tried to cut things out and I just couldn't. So,
Well, I want to echo Melissa's statement that I'm grateful to all of you who invited me here today, because any conversation that furthers the progress of women is one I want to be a part of. So I'm really honored to be with you all today. In my intro, I just want to call out, because a lot of what we'll talk about today is empowerment and support. I was lucky enough to have an incredible mom who was a force. Talk about a force, all 5 feet of her, she was a force. And an older sister who set her sights very high. They were terrific role models for me. They made me feel that anything and everything was possible. I don't know in the moment that I knew what that meant, but as an adult and someone who's had, you know, a long career and a satisfying career so far, I'm more reminded now than ever of the importance of having that kind of support and the people who let you know you can achieve anything. And it's in that spirit that I show up today to share any kind of wisdom I can to pay it forward. Thank you for having me.
Judy, that's lovely. Appreciate that. Clearly, these are women who know something about power, what it looks like, how to recognize it, and how women are leveraging it as a force for change. So we're going to talk about power. And I always believe that it's so important to understand our terms, to make sure that when we are talking about something as powerful as power, that we understand and we're speaking the same language, or that we both and all understand exactly what it is we mean. So let's start out by asking each of you to describe or define power, and to talk a little bit about how you know it when you see it. When you walk into a room or a meeting, how can you tell who the power players are? And how do you see people leveraging power, both in your own experience, in terms of your own work, and also in terms of those around you? So, so Melissa, let's start with you.
Okay.
And of course, I hope you'll respond to each other.
Of course. So sorry, my daughter's not leaving. We're good. So, you know, I believe power has a different meaning for everyone. You know, asking, you know, how to define power, I think it's difficult to answer it. I think power is what you make of it, and power also comes from life experiences, right? How you were raised, what you tolerate, what you don't tolerate. Judy mentioned the significance of her older sister and her mom. I don't have an older sister, but I do have an incredible mom that was extremely supportive, and a grandmother who was forward thinking way beyond her years. So that empowered me to sort of channel power through them. So I think it's difficult to say exactly what power is for everyone. I think Oprah once said power has many addresses, and that's true. Power does not have to mean that you're the CEO of a company or that you're always wearing a suit all day. I think it was like that for a very long time, for too long, in my opinion. But the reason, and that's the reason we're having this conversation today, right, about women in power, because for far too long, women were not empowered. We couldn't vote, we couldn't use our voices. We were expected to be a homemaker or wife or whatever other label you want to add on. And it took a lot of amazing women before us to get to where we are today. And we still have a lot of work to do. But I believe that now we are all in a position of power to take advantage of all the momentum that has come before us. And a strong believer that power comes from within. And if you want to even be more powerful, is to use that power to channel it, to do better, to make an impact. But again, I feel that it's very personal to define that. And it's hard for me to define that for other people, but that's the way I define power.
Thank you.
So yeah, I get that, Melissa, for sure. And it's it lies within, and you have your own way of proving
Yeah.
and displaying how you can be effective with your power. The longer you get to know people, the opportunities you have to build trust. When I think of power in my world, it tends to stop at the final decision maker. You know, in a universe that I'm in where there are lots of voices, casting is something that's a very subjective art form. And I find that the more people that are in the room, you know, you're going to get that many opinions. And so power comes in terms of who maybe has the final say. And yet, if you are not that person, I've learned that you cannot let that stop you, because if this is your area of expertise, you need to find ways that people learn that about you, and then they listen and they pay attention. So I think it's that combination of maybe recognizing who the final decision maker is, but then not necessarily being in a rush. I think listening is very important. Speaking up when you really do have a big idea or a new way of thinking about things, and when you can problem solve. And if you can just trust yourself in those moments, it will become evident to even the final decision makers that you need to be heard. And that doesn't necessarily, believe me, that does not happen overnight. But if you don't get up, and if you have support of others around you, personally and professionally, it can help that journey.
I completely echo that, Judy. I think there are certain powers that naturally come with high-level positions. I mean, that's just the world we live in, right? An executive team of a company is always going to have the power to potentially restructure their team. And all leaders have some sort of measure of power. But agreeing also with what Judy was saying, which basically that you don't ever think that you do not have power at a certain level. You know, personally at Emerge Americas, we've had interns that have come up with the most incredible ideas and initiatives that we've implemented. They felt empowered to bring those ideas to the team. And so I'm a strong believer in allowing teams to feel 100% comfortable to voice ideas and opinions. And it's a very lateral way of managing, but I think it's, at least in my field, it's a very effective way, and it gives people a comfort in all levels to be able to share great ideas. And I think that leaders should always be receptive to that.
Agree.
Thank you both for those comments. What I hear you saying is that you're talking about personal power, which is about support and confidence and trusting that you have something to say and it's worth saying. It's got to do with, you know, our parents, our mothers, our role models in the world. And then we're talking about positional power and how perhaps you bring all of those qualities and those strengths that come from personal power into your career, into the workplace, into your nonprofit work, into your changing the world work. And you develop the skill sets and the patience, perhaps, and the resilience to apply that personal power into a positional frame, is what I hear you saying. And I'm going to trust I heard that correctly.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
Yes.
So,
and to the extent that you also rely on mentors, and we have an advocate program at Disney now, and I volunteered, and it's wonderful because you have the opportunity to get people that don't necessarily work in the same area you do, but maybe you work with them on a regular basis, maybe not, but it's that opportunity to lend support, to shout them out when it's appropriate. You don't have to look, you know, but when you're there and they're doing meaningful work, all you have to do is say, in a larger group meeting where there are lots of leaders, and say, thank you for all that work you did to get those deals closed in record time, whatever it might be. And it's those little things that can sometimes make a difference. So
wholeheartedly agree. I don't think there's anything more powerful than the support of other women or other leaders. I think it just builds confidence. To Judy's point, it reinforces that you're doing a good job, and sort of gives you that extra push to maybe do more, whether it's within your job or personally, etc. So mentorship networks are very, very, very important in my opinion.
And I want to just follow up and confirm, because again, so many of our audience members are students. They all want to be you when they grow up in one way or another. And so the advice I hear you giving them is to seek out those who have positional and personal power around you, and find ways to connect with them so that you have the opportunity for them. I think of it as sponsoring, and that's an entirely different discussion, but mentoring and sponsoring. Sponsorship is exactly what you talked about, Judy, is that person who will mention your achievements in positions where others of leadership will attend to it. It's not going out for lunch and saying, how do you feel? It's about opening doors.
Yes.
It's also about sharing, allowing interns, allowing those with sort of the beginners with the big ideas to share those ideas. And that's assigning power to them. You're sharing power.
Absolutely. I tell a lot of, we have interns that work at Emerge yearly, and I always tell them, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to share ideas. Don't leave a meeting saying, I wish I would have said this or that. And then I follow it by saying, if you do leave the meeting and say, I wish I would have said this or that, follow up with a note. Say, at the meeting, I was thinking about this idea. I was going to mention it, but yada, yada. So I think it's just really important to give them that confidence to speak up.
Melissa, that's fabulous. I mean, that's where it all starts, because we were all interns once, or we were all assistants
You're
once.
scared.
Yes, and you don't have all the answers, and if all it takes is that person who that you can learn from, and listen, mentorship works both ways. I've done a lot of mentoring, and 9 times out of 10, I learn a lot from them too. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't thinking of that before. So two-way street.
Absolutely, agreed.
So in that context, and again, speaking to our audience, many of whom are here to celebrate Women's History Month, all of whom probably are here to celebrate Women's History Month, is power, in the context of what you're talking about, is it gendered? I made a distinction about sponsorship and mentorship, and I tend to think that men sponsor and women mentor. I do think that those relationships tend to be gendered. But in your experience, as you think about how you interact with interns, or how you interact in identifying leadership or power, is that a gendered experience for you? Is there a difference between the way men hold, leverage, apply, and gain power from women, or is it really just, are we becoming more uniform in that process and that potential?
Well, for me, it's been different. I think it was more gendered in my earlier years. I mean, I've been doing this, 48 years now. So, but I do
That's
think
impossible, Judy. I don't believe.
No, you're so sweet, Melissa. I liked you from the second I saw you. Thank you so much. But I do see it evolving, and not just recently. I've seen it evolve over time, and I sit in meetings with a lot of women in positions of power. I tend to think, and I don't want to make generalizations here, because I happen to be married to a husband who is an amazing listener and so supportive and champions everything I want to do. So, I'm going to get back to my original thought, but men do play a role in this too. We are women, hear us roar, I'm all in, right? And at the same time, we're going to reach that level of equality that we deserve sooner if we embrace the men who are there for us and with us. So I just want to to bring that up. But I do think that it's, in terms of the meetings, I feel that it is more balanced in the terms of positions being gendered. I have some wonderful colleagues who I think are all in for empowering women leaders.
I agree with Judy. I mean, I think honestly, like she said, historically, I think it has been extremely gendered. And for example, political leaders show power, strength, they're males, for historically. Some religious institutions still to this day, women can't hold the highest leadership roles or positions of power and strength. So clearly there is still, of course, the gender differences or biases, if you will. But I also believe that there have been dramatic measures in changing this long historical pattern. I think social expectations have also changed for women, which has helped create leadership roles and career paths that maybe were not available in the past. I think it's okay now to have a career and be a mom or a wife, to sow your career journey, which I think, not too long ago, that wasn't the case. We've also operated, I think for many, many, many years within models of leadership that were created and driven by men. And I think that's changing. I think specifically within my industry, which is still very male dominated and still requires a lot of changes, but through technology, entrepreneurship, and innovation, I think we can help drive these changes. I'm what I consider a mompreneur. And I think before that's seen as some, crazy mom trying to build a business out of their house. And that's just not the case anymore. I think mompreneurs are seen as founders and innovators and leaders and in positions of power now. So from a personal experience, I think, yes, there's clearly still differences that we could sort of put our finger on. But I think the silver lining, and I'm always the cup is half full type person, is that, there's been dramatic changes. And I think we have to leverage that and take advantage of that now.
I asked whether you've ever had the experience that you hear women talking about often, which you're in a meeting and you say something that's a really good idea and the conversation moves on, and then a man says the same thing, and there's like this moment where everybody goes, "What a great idea." Is that a foreign experience to you? And if you've never had it, I'd love to talk about that. And if you've ever had it, I'd like you to give some advice to our college student listeners about what to respond or how, or if.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. Yes, I mean, absolutely, that's happened to me. It's happened, I'll take it a step further. I've been in meetings early on in my career where I've been asked, okay, I'm waiting for your boss to get here, and can you get me some coffee? So, it's been, I've had several of those incidents that, to me, I sort of experience them, and then I take a deep breath and I tell myself, I know I am here. There's a purpose, there's a reason. And I think the most important thing to think of when you're in a meeting is just to be fully prepared. I think to have a calmness about you, and to be able to reflect that, I think is very important in any type of meeting or setting. And I think that's, in my career, has gone a long way. I think one piece of advice I would say is I would not be the one, if someone says something, if I say something and then a male later on says it and everyone says, "Oh my God, that's a great idea." I would not be the one to say, "Well, oh my God, I just said that 5 minutes ago." I think that others in the room will have noted that I would have mentioned that before. And I think that it's just a matter of time before it all works out. That's just my humble opinion.
Well, I'll speak, that has happened to me before. And I think over my career, there were times where I don't take the bait, I just listen and then would reflect later on, wow, that was unfortunate because we had already come up with that idea. But the longer you work with a group of people, I have found the moment where I could say in the most respectful way, not in a way that, and not maybe immediately after it was said, but find a way to say, remember when we had this discussion
Great point.
and we talked, just so it doesn't sound like, you want to have a fight, even though you kind of want to have a fight, but you can make your point that there was a discussion and the setting in which that happened. And now actually some colleagues I've worked with long enough that when that happens, in the, I don't know, I have found sometimes to say, oh yeah, we said that, remember, like 5 minutes ago. No, not really, maybe quite like that, but you know, it all depends on the moment and who you're with and how long you've known them and what you feel comfortable. Because I agree with Melissa, stay calm, stay focused, your time will come, and it will hopefully come out at some point where this original idea came, who it came from. But again, when you've built the trust and built the relationships, I would encourage us all to take the moments to not call it out in an unprofessional way, but you can find ways to send that message home in the right moment.
And I'd like to talk to each of you sort of individually a little bit about that path and power, because the last part of this program, you know, it's about power and women, but women bringing that power to bear as a force for change. And so I'd like to talk to you about that in a sort of an open, broad way, how you've done that, how you do that, how you continue to do that, and the change that you hope to affect. So I'm going to start with you, Judy. And if you could just, again, talk to us about, there's so many ways that you have exerted power, cultural power, in terms of the shaping and the articulation of, and the way you help children think about what it means to be growing up in all of those media presentations and performances we talked about. How do you think about leveraging your power to do that? Are you leveraging your personal and positional power as a positive force for change?
Well, personally for me, I'm going to speak very honestly. This year was a reckoning, and always for us at Disney Channel and for me personally, the goal in our casting was to find people to put in these movies or series, in our storytelling, who our audience could relate to, who could see themselves and say, oh, wow, that's happened to me, right? And that's always been there. But in this year, we have really embraced the DEI initiative. And while we may think we were doing pretty well, I acknowledge there was a lot more to do for all of us, and that we needed to push ourselves further and to be even more inclusive and to think bigger in that regard. So for me and my team now, I've empowered all of them to really take this to another level. And I think in our storytelling, I'd like to think we take great pride in the relatable stories that we tell, but I think that kids are growing and maturing faster now. And I think our stories can be more relevant. They can still be fun and have comedy, but they can deal with themes and situations that our young people now really are living with. And in addition to diversity on the screen, we've committed to doing a better job about diversity behind the camera, to inform our storytelling. I've begun seeking out more voices, colleagues within my team and beyond.
Again, when we talk about power and we talk about impact, I can't think of anything more profoundly impacting and powerful than technology and entrepreneurship and innovation. And your goal, your mission, you have many, but one of them is to make Miami the hub, the innovation hub of the Americas. But talk to us about that, and talk to us about the social, political, economic opportunity change that involves and that represents.
Absolutely. So to give you a little bit of background, Emerge Americas was actually born out of frustration, to be honest. I used to work for my father's company, which is a technology, IT infrastructure, and cloud computing company headquartered here in Miami, Florida. And this is our home. It's always been our home. And we're very grateful to have the opportunities we have here in Miami. But building a technology company in Miami over the 90s and early 2000s was very difficult. Recruiting talent was difficult. we would travel to conferences all over the world, and everyone would ask us, why is this company headquartered in Miami? Now, fast forward to 2011, Terramark Worldwide, which is the company I worked for, was acquired by Verizon. Right after the sale of the company, the first conversation my father and I had was, how can we change the future landscape for companies like ours, for technology companies here in South Florida, so they don't face those frustrations, so that we could help build a thriving tech ecosystem, and so that people don't have to question anymore, why are we using Miami and tech in the same sentence? So we've always been a very mission-driven organization from ideation phase in 2011. Fast forward to 2014, which is when we launched, and we had an incredible turnout for the first year. And the idea really is simple. It's bringing together all the tech ecosystem stakeholders, entrepreneurs, investors, global enterprises, government officials, and universities all together here in South Florida to collaborate. But one thing I noticed as soon as our doors opened in the Miami Beach Convention Center in 2014 was that there just weren't enough women present. And it's something that we should have thought about more. I mean, I'm a woman and I think about this all the time. And I was almost like, I can't believe we didn't put more emphasis on this. It was successful in many metrics, but for me personally, I could see that there was visibly women missing from the fold. So I helped launch an initiative called Women, Innovation, and Technology Summit, which within our platform showcases incredible women entrepreneurs. It basically gives them a platform to inspire other women. And we've doubled the amount of women that are now part of Emerge. And I think something else that's really important, I think that you mentioned, is just innovation entrepreneurship is so important for the future generation. We all know everyone is highly connected now, but believe it or not, still today, many homes are not connected properly with the broadband that's needed in such a connected world. And something I'm really excited to talk about today is, which was just announced yesterday, is that Emerge has committed to be a partner in an effort called Miami Connected, which is being led by the Miami Foundation, where we have a very bold task, which is to make Miami-Dade County the most technologically inclusive county in the nation. And we're starting by giving free internet to 100,000 Miami-Dade County public students and their families. And there's several other phases to this project, which is micro grants to startup innovators who are tackling social impact solutions in South Florida as well. So we've gone from a mission-driven organization, which we've always been, but to really being more mindful about social impact, about being inclusive and diverse, like Judy was mentioning, is just something very, very important. And I think we all this year have sort of taken a step back and realized we feel like we're doing a lot, but we probably can do a lot more. And I think no matter what size organization you have, I'm sure that's the case. And so we're being much more mindful